All right, so there it is unmuted.
All right, all good?
Yep.
Technically?
Yes.
Okay. We'll call to order this meeting of the Wabash Township Board. It is August the 20th, 7 p.m. 7:04 p.m. Roll call.
Board Secretary Germany present.
Board President Ian, present.
David Tate, member present.
There we go.
All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. We're pulling it up.
Yeah, let me. There we go.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. We'll start with approval of the previous board minutes from June. I took a look at those. I saw no issues. Any objections?
Nope.
All right. Motion to approve the previous board minutes.
Aye, second on motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Why don't we just then move on to the overview of the budget plan and we can go from there.
So actually, we haven't received some of the final data that we needed, so I'm gonna have to push that back. So
Okay.
we should still be good on time to be able to
So we'll just
do
we'll go over it in September.
Yeah, correct.
And, okay.
I can give you, but the township update, I'll give you a little bit of an overview, not just of where we are there. We're waiting to receive the certified net assessed values. This year will be, we don't know how it'll play out, right? Because with the changes to the like units or apartment complexes with 5 or more units, I didn't want to like have anything too solid up to this point without seeing what that certified net assessed value is. It was due on August 1st, but it hasn't been submitted yet by the county auditor, so we are waiting. Last year it got submitted on September 1st, so we were one of the last counties. About a month off. But other than that, when it comes to the township budget, part of what we are envisioning is, I know that we've talked about the structure for our pay for our firefighters. So last year we did a significant bump. This year, like finishing the ramp or like continuing the ramp, we would lower it to a 10% increase, which would still get us closer to where we need to be long term. We're still trying to figure out some of those fine details. We're going to be last year's budget season. There were a couple of questions about, especially subscriptions in the professional services piece, and so we decided to separate those out. So we're working on finishing out the separation of those particular pieces. We are also trying to figure out, we're waiting to see if we hear anything on some of the grants before we finalize the budget. We've applied for 2 grants, one that we won't know before budget season is complete, another one that we're just week by week waiting to see if we're one of the recipients. So and so that one, the first one that we would hear back from is the AFG grant, which is the Assistance for Firefighters grant. So we're still continuing to push to try to be able to get that piece. And if we don't get it this year, we'll keep applying for stuff because we want to make sure that we take advantage of opportunities out there for funding that don't involve taxpayers in our community paying specifically for it. So other than that, on the last page here, or the last sheet on with the one with the minutes, I wanted to give you guys an update of where we were through the end of July when it came to township assistance. So I know that we've been chatting about just the pace at which we've been spending, etc. So our current year budget is for $100,000. Through July, we were at $47,730. That is there's always a slight discrepancy between that and like the actual budget spending, just simply because if something gets approved at the end of the year, it gets reflected in last year, but might get dispersed at the beginning of the year if we haven't heard. So it's never going to be 100% accurate, but the statistical form allows you to see what direction we're headed in. When it comes to actual spending, we're on pace for about 105 out of a budget of 100 between the different line items. So just and that's making an assumption, right? So I'm basing where we ended last year, or where we are right now, versus where we ended last year and where we were at the end of July last year, and extrapolating out. So we're still on pace roughly for what we anticipate. So we're in decent shape, but it's been there has been an increase lately in assistance. So August has been a little bit heavy. That's not unheard of as people go back to school and leases start to begin and ending and whatnot. There's a lot of folks that are struggling to make ends meet around the time of beginning of a school year. In addition to that, just a quick thing here. I'll try to present it just so that it's our office worked, especially going towards next year. We're coming up on the end of this piece for this year, but let me share the screen and Chrome tab, Sheets. So we built a small app to be able to track instances of where folks have reached out to us for particular pieces of for weed complaints and whatnot. So we're working, we didn't have a tool really, so we built a small app to be able to track that. And so we'll be able to follow up on our end and to be able to track and give a little bit more data. So we're still building it up, but we're just in the process of doing that. That's something, especially with next year's budget, you'll see part of what we're going to try to include line items specifically is for the expenses related to that, to the managing of noxious weeds, et cetera, as we get requests or complaints from folks in the community. So that's one piece that we have been working on, and so we just finished it a couple of days ago. So we're just getting started to use it, and we'll continue doing that. Other than that, our office has gone through. We've also, and I know that Ed will touch up a little bit more on that. We will have a escrow account with the balance of the loan to be able to cover part of the outfitting that we took out as part of that lease loan program. So if you guys are amenable to it, I would suggest amending the agenda to include a motion to create like a pass-through fund, essentially, so that we can spend out of it, and then we are submitting the request over to the bank for reimbursement, and they'll pay us back. But we don't want it to tax the 1190 fund if it's money that's really coming from the loan rather than coming from the 1190 specifically. So when we get to the current business, if you guys are willing to do that, and it can be a motion, because we'll just be tracking the first 25,000 that's spent towards outfitting, et cetera. We'll pay it out of that escrow account, and then we'll get reimbursement for it back, but we don't want it to reflect on the accounting end. So it's just a procedural thing.
Specific line item numbers for the budget that we need to mention.
We wouldn't, since it's a home ruled fund. If I mean, it'll be a not to exceed 25, because that's what the loan has left over. So we could do it with 25,000, not to exceed 25,000. Yeah. I don't think that I have anything else specifically, unless you guys have questions for me.
No, I mean, I can add a small update. I was going to look into doing some reporting on some of this data to make it look a little nicer. Gateway has everything that we need, but the mechanism by which you have to pull the data is really ancient and not very user-friendly. I contacted the tech folks over there. They are working on an API, and I told them to get me in on the testing when that is done so that I can write some code to just pull it down automatically and organize it all in one nice place. So
That's awesome.
I don't know what the timing will be on that, but that is
In the works.
That's what I have on it. Ed?
I don't have a ton. Just a quick run number update for you. August 20th of last year, we were at 778 runs. This year, we're at 892. We're up 114 runs over last year. And we're expecting that
that's
to
all we
continue
hired.
growing. So,
That's all we hired.
What was that number last year? Was it 7?
778.
728?
I've been waiting for that shoe to drop.
we've been hovering around that 40 to 50 run above number. We've just been blasted the last few months.
Is
Last
that,
couple months.
We knew it was coming. That's why we got ahead of it.
is that also due to the new year? Just is that a standard thing?
The students coming back?
Yeah.
This actually, most of it took place prior to the students coming back. So it's just been this has been the last, this big bump. We were running, like I say, between 40 and 50 runs up is where we've kind of been since January-ish, February-ish. But just this, we had a really big explosion June, the end of June, July, we blew up quite a bit, and that was before students came back. So I'm anticipating it getting more.
Are there any consistent reasons? Have you been tracking the calls?
Nothing that's quantifiable, nothing that's significant. It's kind of we normally have this weird ebb and flow where we'll be up, we've been up 60 runs and we've been down 20 runs, right? It's just a normal thing, but it's not normal for us to blow up this much in the summer. Normally during the summer when the students are gone, our run numbers seem to level out. And we normally pick up again once the students get back, and then we have another big bump come winter time. And for us to be 114 runs up now, that's significant. So very significant.
Is there a difference in the type of runs causing that increase?
It's not necessarily. I don't have the fire EMS breakdown of the runs. I didn't pull them, but we've had quite a bit more medical runs, but we've had an influx in fire runs as well. With the new apartment complexes, we've had fire alarm issues. We've had, and that was before students were there, and that normally extrapolates out quite a bit once students get there. And not extrapolates, but it normally amplifies a little bit once students are there. Excuse me. But we've been responding more, not just to medical runs, general medical runs, but we're responding more to heritage, IVH. We had some issues with us not being dispatched to calls out there. And it was just an issue with dispatch and the ambulance crew and all that. So, and I don't know that we've seen the uptick from that, but we've asked them to start to improve that. And we've had a good meeting with dispatch about the calls that we will be dispatched to there. So I would say, again, that'll be something else that adds to this increase in run numbers is we'll be dispatched to all the calls there, not just the ones that they think fire should be dispatched to, because they were getting it wrong and we weren't being dispatched to some calls we should have been getting dispatched to. So, so we'll see an uptick from that as well. But we've been, again, incredibly busy. So we just some quick things to note. We finished the rest of the upstairs project. So we will be working on trying to get a kind of an open house set for fall time. So we can have folks come in. We're trying to, one of the projects that we were planning to redo this, the meeting room here, which we've talked about before. Just not sure if we're going to do that yet. We might go ahead and do the open house because the bulk of the stuff's done. So we'll keep you posted on that for sure. We took delivery of the new truck. It is at RPM. So we took delivery of the truck. We had it for 7 days to be able to kind of just put it through its paces, determine, what the status of it was, if we wanted it. We want the truck. It had some hydraulic leak or two out of the boom in it. So we talked with Friendly Mountain who was selling the truck, and they're paying for the entire system to be redone. So all the hydraulic stuff. So the truck's in fantastic shape. It does everything we want it to do. I just didn't want to deal with the hydraulic leak and what could come from that. So it's over at RPM. They're actually working on the quote. They're working today actually with Friendly Mountain. They're getting them, getting Friendly Mountain the quote. Friendly Mountain's paying for all of that stuff. They've also got some loose equipment that they're paying for that the truck was supposed to have come with and didn't. So they've offered to pay for a ladder. They've offered to pay for some miscellaneous equipment that belonged on the truck. So they've been super responsive and very, very helpful through the process. Friendly Mountain has. So once the truck gets back here, we'll get it over to Move Over Outfitters to get striped and lettered and all those things, radios mounted and all that. So that I'm hoping will be within the next week or two. It's been over at RPM for the last week. while they kind of diagnosed, they pulled a lot of stuff apart, trying to make sure they got the diagnostics right since somebody else is paying the bills. So they dug a little deeper into it. So, but Brindley Mountain has been super, super awesome about whatever it is they need to do, we'll pay for it. So I think they weren't expecting it. So I think CIO, where it came from, is also going to be helping them through that process, but that's a them thing, not an us thing. So, but the truck is awesome. We've flown a lot of water through it. We've driven it quite a bit. It'll be a great addition to us. So, as Angel said, we've got some loose equipment. We've still got to get for it. We're in the process of figuring out what all the equipment come off the old 6, what we have, what we need. And that'll be a whole lot easier when the truck's here and we've got our compartment space. We can have an idea how deep the compartments are and what space or what things will fit where. But the shifts have kind of been digging through the stuff we have. Hopefully it's not going to be much. We've got the bulk of the stuff. So there shouldn't be a whole lot. I mean, the $25,000 that's there from that purchase, that in that escrow, should cover most of it, most all of what we need. So beyond the truck, the only other thing the only other new thing is we're hoping to have our rear parking lot seal coated here in the next couple of weeks. I've got a couple quotes. I'm still waiting to get that done. It's not been done for the last 3 years, and it should have been. It was supposed to have been done in 21. That was the plan in 20, was to do it in 21. That just never got done. We just had so much going on since the last couple of years. So it was going to get done last year that we started the construction project. We didn't want to seal coat, but the dumpster out there and all that stuff and mess it all up. So now that that's all done, we're going to have them come and do that project. So we'll be doing that. Aside from that, I mean, we've got some general maintenance stuff. We've got a couple air conditioning units that are going to need some work done on them. That didn't end up. Anderson, we've got a contract with JL Anderson, to do our HVAC stuff. Initially, they were coming in the fall to do PMs on coming in the summer to do all the PMs, preventative maintenance on all the furnaces and all that stuff, and then they would come in the winter to do all the air conditioners. Apparently, they didn't come at the end of winter to do the air conditioner units, so we've got a couple compressors that need replaced and stuff like that. In total, it was going to end up being about $6,000 worth of work that needed done. We've got 5 different air conditioning units. We've got just a lot of stuff. So we're getting another quote on that work just to have somebody else come in and look at it, just make sure that what they're wanting to do is all needed. So, and other than that, maintenance wise, we've got a roof leak that we just found. Bishop found it the other night when it stormed like crazy. So Wilkinson's and Sons. They're the ones who put the new roof on last summer. So they were actually supposed to be here today to go up there and figure it out and fix it, and they weren't yet. So that'll be worked on the next day or so. And I think that's it. That's all I've got. Yes.
How are we doing equipment-wise for the fire department? There's various types of equipment. Are we lacking anything in the need this coming year?
I mean, we've got some. Angel and I started a list of the stuff that we've got coming. Right now, we're really good on things right now. The only thing we're in need of is some radios. Yeah. We've had some radios kind of take a crap on us, so I've actually got a good lead on some used, good APX radios. Like we carry a company out of actually New Jersey again, has got some really good equipment that. I mean, it's used, but it'll get us through until we're able to figure something else out with radios at about half the cost of brand new ones. So when it comes to electronic stuff, I don't like buying used electronics, but that's just one of those things that $6,000 a radio, it just makes sense at this point for us to be able to fill those gaps with used equipment if that's what we have to use.
The second one was your heating or your company you're talking about, the mist coming in and doing the preventive maintenance. Is that a contract we have that we don't pay them on it?
I thought there had been a contract signed, but I don't think there was actually one. I thought we had signed a
They're not
contract.
billing us for something they didn't show up for.
No, we didn't get billed for the preventative maintenance, that plan, but that was, I know for sure it was a conversation that I had with them. And I thought they had sent an agreement over, but I can't find one, and they said that one wasn't actually signed, so.
Thank you.
Other than that, on that same note for fire stuff, a couple of other pieces. Well, like Ed mentioned, we're looking at, we're actually hoping to, and I went through and I did like a random spot check for other townships. Nobody seems to, generally, most people don't split up the 1190 fund into separate line items, just keep it as one bulk category. But we figured that either having a list of those specific things that we're planning on having and presenting it, or even putting some of the money in line items for some of the expenses we know are happening might be helpful. So I'm planning on going in that particular direction for the upcoming year. We will keep working on that piece there. We have, in addition to all of those things, we also, because I know that I forgot to mention, we hired our senior EMS officer. Dan Huff started on Monday.
We've got two more things that I forgot.
Oh.
Go ahead.
So that was one, and I guess he can talk a little bit more about that. But for me, it is a really big step in the direction that we want the fire department to go towards as we meet the need for our growing community.
So Dan starting Monday was a really big deal. For us, it's incredibly significant given that we talked about the ALS non-transport thing. I mean, just overall, it's significant for us, but Dan will be the one primarily driving that process. Right now, it's, for me handling all of it, it's been really difficult to get all of the things done. So Dan will be handling that as part of the process. Dan's got he's got 22 years in EMS in general, so that's what he knows and what he's very, very good at. He's just not here. He was going to be here tonight, but we spent all day today in a class, and we're going to be in class the next 2 days. So, but he was in Monday, so we'll end up doing something for him, kind of a swearing in sort of thing. But and we'll keep you all posted on that. Also, I'll send you guys an email. I meant to copy you one, but I didn't. Boone Munn, who was our firefighter that we just hired. Boone started, he goes to the academy. He's been working day shift, Monday through Friday, kind of 7 to 3. So he's covering all the shifts. He's here during the day to get good experience with all the shifts. And he'll be going to the academy September 17th, and he'll be graduating October 29th. So I'll send you guys all an invite for the graduation. It'll be at the Long Center. So if you're able to make it, that'd be awesome. I think it'd be cool for him to see you guys there. So, and we're also finishing up our inventory, which we'll have hopefully very soon. Joe's working on that.
And that's a 2-for-1. Well, more than 3-for-1. There's a lot of bang for buck there. One is the capital asset policy that you guys have adopted. That the township have never had an inventory of equipment. This will be a big part of tracking that. It also will go into our ESO system, which is as we mentioned, we were moving towards a paid system for being able to manage all of our information, run data, etc. And that includes equipment and all that sort of stuff that can then be provided to when our ISO rating gets done, for example, and those pieces that will end up affecting what our rating is, what our insurance costs will be for our taxpayers. Those things allow us to, like, tracking all that inventory will allow us to more seamlessly have all of those pieces. And so there's a lot of bang for buck, plus just knowing what we have exactly where. And
it'll help us prepare for replacement costs.
Exactly.
It'll help us get a better idea of what's coming once we have that full inventory done, because most of those things have a duty life on them for things that we utilize. So that'll be helping that process with it.
So a lot of good stuff. We've been working our butts off in the last couple of months, and well, in general, but there's always more projects coming down the pipe, and so those are some of them.
Good.
Yeah.
All good stuff. All right. We'll move on. We will get to public comment. Is anybody, I think we have somebody in the call as well as here in the room. Is there anything folks would like to say?
Yeah, that fly's getting me too.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Frank Gannon, 3522 Alley Shiva Drive, West Lafayette, but not city proper. Just have a, I've been basically, listening to the meetings for the past year. Someone's always wants to be a very informed person. I pretty much know the city of West Lafayette inside now. And now I'm, more interested in learning about, the Wabash Township where I actually reside. But just a couple things that I found that I just want to bring to your attention. I'm not here to bust anybody or anything along those lines. Just things that, and I may be completely wrong, and I never back away from someone telling me, well, you're wrong, completely wrong. That's wrong. Okay, I'm just going on the information that I have. First thing was looking at the 2024 budget that was posted online. And first of all, I want to thank you for updating and finally getting the website off the ground. Okay, it was very helpful to me. It saved Angel quite a lot of trying to have things copied so I could pick them up or scanned and sent to me. So I want to thank you for that. I appreciate it very much. All I see here is expensive. I don't see the income side. Right? I mean, unless I'm looking at it wrong from what I have.
So the
That was online.
yeah. So for it's just
I might have done something wrong.
it's a couple of different forms that come together. So the budget form that you're looking at is going to be the line item budget form.
Right.
But then there are separate forms for the income side,
Yeah.
the income stream.
And that's not posted on here.
I hadn't posted it on the
Because I'm
site.
very interested on both sides.
Yeah, and I can pass that to you. I just it wasn't in the list of documents that we had asked to put on there, and so but I can get you those all of those income.
That's what I thought the situation was, but I just wanted to ask.
Yeah, we can get that up there, and that'll be easy to put up for the 2025 as well, because that's coming right up.
Yeah, but let me just double check here. I believe that you should be able to find some of it on Gateway.
Yeah, all of that should be accessible on Gateway. Gateway is just not a terribly user-friendly tool.
Yeah.
And I'm not user friendly to computers that much.
So
I'm okay, but I'm not the.
So I guess it's a two-part piece. So there's just for reference for future ones. So if you go to Gateway and you search by unit and you go to Wabash Township, there will be two pieces to it. One of them will be the certified, sorry, I apologize, I'm lost track of it. Certified budget, levy, and rate. And so that tells you what the budget was, the levy was, the rate was for taxes. And then there's also the estimate of miscellaneous revenue. And all of that is populated from our Form 2, which tells you the rest of the revenues that we have estimated based on historical trends. Most of them are provided by the state, but there are a couple of small pieces that come with it as well. Like we have a contract with Shelby Township, so we get some money coming in. We've estimated other pieces that we might be able to receive. And so like this last budget, although it hasn't happened yet, we'd estimated that we would be able to already have ALS non-transport off the ground, and we were expecting to start receiving revenue. So all of those pieces go into our anticipated revenue and whatnot. So if you go to Gateway, so if you look up Gateway Indiana, you'll be able to access all that. But if in any case, going forward, since we're posting stuff on the meeting website, with each particular meeting that we have, that gets uploaded. And our old site and everything was uploaded there, but translating all of the data that we previously had on the old site takes time, and so that part we hadn't updated. So, but I can get you that if you would like for 2024.
Yeah, it would just make it easier for me at this point in time. Yeah. I will go on Gateway, but
yeah, of course.
Let me play around with it.
Yeah, you have.
Did you have anything else, sir?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. All right.
Yeah, I have a few other things. Second thing is looking at how the Open Door Records Act, the open door law. okay, I found, in regard to that, that some of the minutes, okay, and I know the memorandum, they're not really minutes. I looked into the law in regard to, townships, and I understand that you're not supposed to get involved in, since you don't have the staff in most places, and a lot of townships are very small, that, you don't have the staff to be doing these extensive minutes, like the city of West Lafayette, and like other cities I was involved with, the towns I was involved with, out east. But there are some things that on some of the minutes for the last year that I looked at, that there's really nothing. Like the January 2nd reorganization meeting, all right? That had all kinds of information that I thought, was important, all right? And basically, there wasn't really that much in regard to the minutes. It says here, here's the law, here's a copy of it. What it says basically is, date, time, and place of meeting, members of the governing body recorded as either present or absent, and then the general substance of all matters proposed, discussed, or decided. All right, so when it's posted that it's the trustees report, and that's all there is in the minutes, that is not information whatsoever. It's just a regurgitation of the agenda. All right, so some of the meetings, like Mr. Tate here, who did temporarily when he took over, that one meeting I think was in February where you did the minutes. Those I thought were adequate minutes. After comparing it to watching the video. But for example, I said and it's not any kind of like shot at you, Germany, all right? Because it's something that you just walk into, you're not really really aware of it. A lot of people aren't aware of things like that, and so don't take it personally. But the I think it was the
Did you take a look
February
at June's?
20th meeting.
Frank, did you take a look at June's? I have a copy here if you haven't seen it. But if that's more to your liking, that's a more recent one, and I think we can stick to that format for a while. Part of this is we've just been chewing through a third member at frightening
See, I'm
pace.
looking at your protection too.
Yeah.
Because down the line, especially with some of the issues that I saw in that 2024 agenda, you're gonna have some meetings where there's gonna be more than just me sitting there.
Yeah.
And there's gonna be some people that are not gonna be friendly. Oh, yeah, I know that. I know the history. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I know the history that, I read about the history.
And it's part of the reason that we
Yeah.
record all of the meetings. They're all on
Right,
YouTube in their
Right,
entirety.
I understand that. But it's just really also to protect you. I was involved in government on a couple of different levels. Never as an elected official, but always behind the scenes, and served on the zoning board for a number of years and things along those lines in a very litigious state.
Yeah.
Okay, and all you got to do is do something wrong that doesn't fit into the law and becomes a big issue that didn't have to be a big issue.
Yep.
Yeah. But like the February 20, just for example, the presentation on the 2024 agenda, that's information that has to be out there, okay, in the public.
Yeah.
And all there was is, basically trustees reported.
Yeah, the style has been very, very inconsistent. We will.
Yeah.
I think this June one is a nice combination of the ways that we've been doing it. Looks good to me. I think it's got the right level of detail in there,
Here's a copy of that I had. You guys can look at.
and we will endeavor to stick
And
to.
I also know that law has changed. At least the office has changed in regard to that on the state level. I'm very aware about that. So just the last item is, and I also think that members of the public, that you should ask them for their name, address, like I did, okay, and that there should be. He spoke about, what I just spoke about, just like 2 lines, that's it.
Sure.
I think that's important. I think it's important, and it helps you guys too. And the last thing that I had on mine, what I wanted to talk about was the assistance program. I was happy to see the stringent, application requirements and the guidelines and things along those lines. But I have some questions that I'm not going to ask now. I'm going to send them via email in regard to what are the metrics? Okay, how do you show success? What's success? How many people are just repeats? How many people come? What are the metrics involving that particular program? So you can measure success.
So the metric that the state has us look at,
Mhm.
which I think you grabbed the packet, right? For the
No.
ones for today?
No.
So,
I know a lot of these things.
so the last page of this, on this end, it's a 2-sided document. That's the metric that the state has us look through.
Mhm.
And so that's what we've got, because it's what the software auto generates.
Okay.
We really don't have the staffing to be able to review more in depth the measure of success. We've worked to get people referred to other places, etc.
Mhm.
But it's an imperfect system, and so unless our office
It's an
had an
imperfect
influx, if our office had a big influx of money, we'd be able to spend time and energy trying to track more specifically. But we're really just a stopgap. Where somebody's bleeding, you're putting on a tourniquet or shoving a big gauze or piece of cloth to stop.
And I believe part of the application is that it's not a regular occurrence for that person, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Which is
But I know you've had extensions. Okay, I know that.
Yeah.
From listening to it, and I can understand that too. But my thing is, other people that extensions, and then you still what's the success rate? How many people? I'm more interested in how many people don't need extensions, or after the extension have gotten back on their feet. I want to see a success rate. I want to see what it is.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is, how do you track that? Like, where are you going to get that information, right? Like, it's not like we can just request federal enrolls of food stamp recipients or something like that and see, like we just don't have, we're not privy to that, and their federal government sure as hell isn't going to share it with us. So it's just a tough one to follow. Well, I think the best we can do is just see that they didn't show up again and hope that means that they managed. But I'm not sure what information we would be able to get to even answer that question in a better way. Because I would love to be able to answer it in a better way. I mean, that's what I do for a living. But there's just not a lot to go on with what we have available, and there's only so much you can get about a person without getting into pretty severe privacy issues.
Yeah, I understand that. All right, that's basically all I had right now.
Okay. I can to the email that I replied. That was you a few days ago. Yes.
Yeah, that's one of the other things that you'll see in the record. Okay. That you have to give me that information. You can't wait till it's approved. It's right in there. It says it right in that thing I handed.
Yeah. Well, it's not even drafted yet. Is my point. So that's when what Angel was saying about the.
But that's not
net assessed value earlier.
I'm just saying for the future. Okay, I'm really not concerned about. I'm going to turn you in. Oh, you would. I'm not doing that. What I'm saying is that it should be drafted. Okay, it has to be drafted because I asked for it. Then you better.
He wanted the 2025
by the law, you're
budget
supposed to get it.
information before the meeting, which
Oh.
will be available.
I mean,
It's just,
so
No, I'm talking about the meeting I was just handed. That.
the June meeting.
No, what?
I don't know.
I think didn't you just hand me the April 16th minutes?
No.
Dave?
Those
Oh, I
two.
thought you did.
Well, I mean, I included that in there, but
That's
Yeah.
what I got when I walked in. I think he handed me that.
That was just us patching a hole in one that was
Yeah, that one.
missing.
Yeah, that one.
I mean, I know.
I don't know if the financial information is included in the open door law.
Well-
I'm really not sure.
Well, just as a note, they're not privy to the budget until I submit. So if you were
Mhm.
asking them for 2025
No, I didn't
data,
ask him for that.
That's what I
just
thought we
asked
were
him.
talking about,
Well,
was the
no,
2025.
I just asked him, and then he told me that, I wouldn't get it until it was approved by the state.
Yes,
Okay.
so that's what,
But
yeah.
I just wanna know if
so
Not
legally
so-
you can get it before it's, after Handheld submits it.
So-
okay,
I think there's just a
and it can be
misunderstanding.
released to the
What
public.
I mean is, when Anho was talking about the change to certified net assessed value, the state this year passed some changes to the
Right,
ways
the rent,
that,
with the rent, so I know.
yeah, with the ways that we're allowed to assess value, and we don't understand the implications of that to our revenue until the state has given us final numbers on those. That's what we're waiting for. We're not waiting for them to approve our budget. We're waiting for them to tell us what our revenue is gonna be.
so that we're able to finalize our draft budget.
Yeah, like we
Because
can't
we
even
haven't.
do a
so-
budget because they haven't given
So
us our income yet.
the process for townships, the township trustee drafts a budget proposal, submits it for and including the public hearing piece. That'll get posted on Gateway. Then we'll have the public hearing. That'll be next month on the third Tuesday of the month.
Yeah, so.
And then that'll be based on all the data that we have. If you submitted to the board a request for the budget, they wouldn't have it because I haven't submitted
Right.
to the board anything for the budget.
Yeah, I understand.
It just doesn't exist yet.
Right.
I mean, fingers crossed it'll exist by the next meeting.
Yeah, we're waiting on.
We're
waiting.
kind of at the mercy of others on this one.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. We have a couple of items. We're gonna punt on the old business from the October meetings, and get those patched up for, this coming meeting. I can, instead, I can put the, April motion in here. So a motion to approve the April 16th, board meeting minutes.
Um,
Seconded?
Seconded.
All in favor?
I
Aye. All right.
That's what you did get me, was the April 16th. That's what I said, I said, wait, just hand it
what I
back.
gave you when I handed you.
I thought, I did it earlier.
Oh, yeah, this is what I did.
That was the April 16th. Yeah, that's why I thought I got confused. I said, wait a second.
All right. So, motion to authorize the trustee to move money for MIH expenditures to different categories as needed in the general fund.
I can give you a quick overview. It's literally
Yes.
a 30-second. So we have $5,000 that we had allocated, and when we set up the budget, we put it all in supplies. But we were needing to use a little bit of that money in different categories. So some of it wouldn't really fit into supplies, like it might be services and charges. Like we just were looking to renew car seat techs, certifications. And so it's just allowing me to move that small bucket of money and like divvy it up as needed without having to go to the board every time, just so that, if we need to put $200 more into services, then we just reduce supply by $200. That's what that does.
So just point of clarification, somebody doesn't, it looks like MIH stands for what?
Mobile integrated health care.
Okay, so should we have that in there so that somebody?
We can put it in the
I'll put it
meeting
in the
minutes
minutes,
to
okay.
make sure that.
I knew what I meant, I just thought.
Yeah, I got you.
And I believe it's spelled out in one of these, in resolution
Yeah.
17 as well. Okay, I will put forward the motion to authorize the trustee to move money from the MIH expenditures to different categories as needed in the general fund.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay. Resolution 2024-16 approving the remuneration settlement agreement. I won't read the whole thing out. It's quite long. The long and short of it is, previous trustee was removed for felony conviction. The conviction was vacated, and by state law, a government agency owes the remainder of that elected official's salary from the time that they would have served to them after the vacation of a conviction against them. So this is just us taking care of that, and the whole agreement can be read in full, and has been on the website for not very long, but that was let's just say a process.
Yeah.
I
We
have-
received the final version today.
Yes, I've read through the whole thing. I have no major issues. If folks have questions, please feel free to ask. Okay, I will motion for a vote on resolution 2024-16, approving a remuneration settlement agreement.
Second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. 2024-17, resolution to amend the 2024 salary resolution with different MIH employee rates. Can you catch me up on what this one was? I know you sent me an email about it.
Yes.
It's been a minute.
So we have the lovely advantage of being a government agency, so even small, tiny things have to go through committee. And this is just to approve. We are hiring a person with a little bit more experience on MIH for the Mobile Integrated Health Program. And so we are creating a position that's called healthcare worker under the MIH portion of the salary resolution to be paid at $25 an hour instead of $20, which is what we've been paying for medical staffers. So this just creates that position and pay scale.
Okay.
And then it keeps everything else the same. So it still has the not to exceed allocated amounts that we had in the previous budget. Sorry, in the previous resolution. So literally the only change is
$5.
$5 an hour for that
Okay.
position.
Any questions? All right, I move to vote on resolution 2024-17.
Second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Just a quick question, in looking at those salary numbers,
Mm-hmm.
how does that compare? Are we in line for other fire departments of this size and this amount? Are we lagging behind
We're still
quite
laughing.
a bit?
Oh yeah, we're right. We went over this at budget time last year. We had like a chart of where we were versus other departments, and it was I would say catastrophic, and it's amazing anybody worked here. It is now better,
We thought
but
it was
still on the
volunteer.
low end.
That was volunteering.
Yeah. So yes, there's probably still some catching up to do to make it competitive, but it is better than it was, and it's just something we're gonna have to fix over time.
And-
So if we look at this, and just like your equipment,
Sure.
you know, we have to bring things in line, we have to plan for it. So if we're saying we're gonna bring it in line, I think we ought to look at a time frame where we do that with the income and expenditures. So we really need to look at a time frame, not just have something crop up.
So what our current plan, and I can touch upon that a little bit more. I have been trying to schedule a ramp up where we did the big portion of it last year because it's easier to justify, we're ramping up to here. Here's the first big chunk of it. And so we're still like ramping up. So my original plan, and I would have to review and I can let you know by the time of the budget if that's what we'll finalize or whatnot. Or my initial hope is to be able to we did 20 last year, hoping to do 10 this year. And then after that, I think 7.5 gets us where the next set of increases will be much closer to we'll still be behind, but our firefighters won't be.
Applying for food stamps.
Well, yes, they won't be applying for.
And
food
we're a
stamps.
smaller department. Like
Yeah.
it is what it
It's-
is. But
I think that the other part that for our firefighters and just in general, so there's two pieces. Our firefighters care about two components, right? It's the amount of narrowing it down and dumbing it down to because there's obviously a lot more they care about. But there's two main pieces, and the firefighters understand the constraints of both of those. We're trying to raise salaries and trying to get to a place where their jobs are competitive, but they're also looking and interested in trying to make sure that we add the staff to make sure that they're properly staffed and whatnot. And obviously that's what we're trying to do with the SAFER grant. But if we don't get the SAFER grant, then the next year we'll probably have to still plan for an increase. As you're seeing run data, et cetera, like what we had, for example, today, we have a great fire department, but we got back-to-back calls and we didn't have enough staffing to be able to go into the second call, right? So
We got 3 calls.
yeah,
right
3
together.
times, yeah.
So again,
you can only do so much, right? Like,
Yeah.
Do you defer that to another station at that point or another locale?
we had volunteers turn out for the 3rd call. It took a little bit to get them, but we were able to get volunteers to turn out, and One of our full-time guys actually lives close, heard the third call go out, so he ended up coming in to help with that call. So that was beneficial. But yes, I mean, had they not been able to come out for that, we would have had to have West Side run out Jackson Highway and take that call for us. But what's that?
C shift did 10 calls the other day. It's crazy.
In one shift.
In one shift. I think we're at 8 today.
Yeah.
So it would strike me, and I'm totally naive about this. It would strike me that a smaller department like this is really like a Swiss Army knife. You've got to know enough about to do almost everything compared to some of the specialized units of larger groups.
So that's what makes it difficult. What makes it difficult is if you go to, I'm be serious right away. I'm not trying to say our folks are any better than anybody else or anything like that. I mean, of course, I feel like they are, but I get it. You go to Lafayette, Boone, who's getting ready to go through the academy. The guys that will go through the academy with Boone, when those guys come out, they will be assigned to a house.
Yes.
And they will have a specific, you're right in the back of the truck job. That's what you do until it's time for you to promote to a driver.
Yep.
So they are trained to do one thing, unless they cross train for trench rescue, rope, that sort of thing. Our guys have to do it all. Our guys have to drive the trucks. They've got to pump the trucks. They've got to put the fire out. They got to do the rope stuff. They've got to do the technical rescue stuff, extrication, all of those things. And I think that makes it a little difficult, especially if, we've got one guy that's a newer guy. He's got his year on, but, he is very, very interested in that technical rescue stuff, right? He could easily go someplace that offers that. Lafayette, Indianapolis, someplace that's got a big complement of that would pay him a whole lot more money. He's excited and happy to be here. So it's our job to try to facilitate that as best we can to keep him here and motivated. But you're exactly right. Our folks have to do all of the things.
And then remain certified in those.
That's exactly right.
And that's
stay up to date on it,
time.
train on all that stuff.
Which means they're out.
That's exactly right. And so again, I think that, that the place that becomes the biggest issue is when we get into every department runs through a morale slump. And when you get there, when Purdue Fire Department's starting a brand new firefighter out with no firefighter certifications or EMT at $70,000 a year, that's when those things become right. Like you really, it's tough. And we are incredibly appreciative of the ability to get the raises that we've gotten and what we're hoping to get. But, talking to our guys, they would much rather have another guy on their shift which to me is admirable, right? They could easily say, give me more money and we'll deal with it. They would rather have the help and the people to be able to spread it out because like right now on Travis's shift, there's 3 guys assigned to a shift. A medical call goes out. 2 of those guys leave here and Travis will stay back as the extra person, right? So if there's another call that goes out, he's here to cover it. But he's leaving here by himself, which is exactly what we tried to get rid of.
Yeah.
Guys taking runs by themselves. So we're hopeful that a volunteer turns out with Travis to go take that call. So we at least have another person there on that call because, let's face it, we did it for many, many years where one guy would go take a call and it's just not safe.
Isn't there something, I think you mentioned some time ago about a minimum number that has to be applied to it?
Yeah, NFPA standards they don't apply to EMS calls. That just applies to fire calls and different types of fire calls. But yeah, we're way, way off from NFPA staffing. But NFPA staffing says on a fire apparatus leaving the building, minimum is 4 people on a fire truck.
Getting closer.
Which we are getting closer. And again, we're so incredibly appreciative for the ability to grow the way we have. But again, with over 2 months, over the last 2 months with us going another 60 runs above where we were, that's concerning to me. Yeah, because it means we're going, with them being at 8 runs already today, they're going to get hit for more. I know they will. And at some point, we're running their butts off. It's not just that time that they're going on those calls. You got to factor in their recording time, the amount of time it takes them to generate their run reports that we have to have completed to submit to the state to make us eligible for grant funds, maintenance, upkeep on apparatus in the building, and all of those things. And beyond that, we've got a complement of volunteers we've got a bunch of new volunteers that are coming in that these guys are training at that same time. So there's just a whole lot to task on. I'm not trying to say that I was gonna say, I'm not trying to say it's too much, but it's too much. I mean, it is, but they're doing it and they're making it work, and I applaud them.
And when you're with your question of what does the plan, and I know that we've chatted about it, so I have the strong suspicion that it's more about getting it out there than what specifically it is. The part of it is, right, like we did this 10-year growth appeal, and so we're able to do that once every 10 years. And so by the time we're able to do that again, well, God knows where we'll be on runs, but that'll be the place where we'll start to get closer, the big dent, right? So the rough estimate that we have, and again, don't hold me to it because it depends on, there's other pieces of the department that increase with it as well. But our rough estimate is that we could be able to, by the end of that 10-year period, so 2032, which is still quite a bit away, be able to sustain without grant funding 5 firefighters per shift. So that's kind of the upper bound of what we think we'd be able to
Because
sustain.
we will
without
get more
grant
money as we grow. It's just a lagging indicator.
Yeah, and so we'll but I'm also trying to be very mindful of, we don't want to max out the fire levy immediately. Sure, like we theoretically could, and we would, and economically, and for our fire department, if we'd be justified, but it's not the smart way to do, because then we'll get stuck at the end of that without really growing the way we need to.
I think we're going to be forced to do something anyway with this chip plant when it goes in, and the growth that we have from that's going to happen very, very quickly. Once that gets put in here, we're going to blow up like crazy. Wow. The other part of that is we also know there's going to be a point that we have a board sitting across the table from us that isn't concerned about it as much as you guys are. There's going to be a board sitting across here that's not worried about them taking 15, 16 calls in a shift. It's you guys got what you need, right? Like, if they ask that question. So I'm not trying to say that we want to blow up because there are people here that care, but it's refreshing to be able to be asked the question, what do you need? That's not a normal thing.
That's our role.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the other question with that is, knowing that we're kind of playing catch up on personnel and finances and everything else, do you see this increase, this bump in calls as a greater need to maybe get a little quicker for staffing? Yes.
You can answer the question honestly.
We need that 5 guys that he's talking about.
Yeah.
2 years ago.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it would be simple to sit here and just beat you guys over the head with a stick every time I sit in here and tell you how bad we need more people, but you guys know, the situation. We're in need and we're in need bad.
So just
Are we going to hear about the SAFER grant prior to budget approval?
so we don't know yet.
They haven't started.
They haven't started
issuing the awards yet.
So we anticipate that the first awards will start coming out in September.
Is there a possibility that it comes out after we approve the budget and that has some impact, pretty serious impact on?
So the benefit, and hear me out. So we haven't finalized the proposal, and that's actually part of what we're still chatting about. Like, we have a first draft of the fire budget, but we don't have a completed one that we feel 100% confident about. Not that you ever feel 100% confident about anything. But part of it is that part of what we're trying to look at is with the SAFER grant funding, the worst thing that could happen in the event that we propose a budget and you guys adopted a budget that allows us to grow next year is that we didn't need it this first year, and that we're able to save up a little bit of money because it's going to get paid by the SAFER grant. And we would be fine with that. But again, conversations and we have to sell it to people. We still have to tell people, and I think that our community has responded positively to it. We haven't heard complaints really, as we've talked about the increase in funding that we've needed for our different programs. We really haven't had much of any complaints. We're hearing a lot of positive stuff, but we still have to go out and talk to folks about, hey, we're doing this increase and it gets us closer to that maximum levy, and this is why we're needing it. 114 calls might not seem like a lot, but that's on pace to be a 10% growth from last year.
That's what I've been waiting for, is that number to start
picking up.
skyrocketing
Yeah.
because it was always going to, but now we're talking about building a
Well,
plant that's going to have hazardous materials in it,
Well, and it's
as
not
well
just
as acres and acres and acres of new housing that's going to go up.
and then there's a separate conversation that I would be happy to individually talk with you guys because we don't have a game plan for it yet. But the separate conversation is what does it look like when buildings are being master leased by Purdue? What's the effect on our community, et cetera, on our fire department? We're seeing, we have like, for example, Wabash Lofts, which just came up and came online, right? And how many beds is that one? Do you remember the number? 290 units?
5 buildings with 3 floors. They each have 20 rooms on them. 24.
So 5 times 3 times 20, you said?
Mm-hmm.
So 5 times 3 times 20. That's
15 times 20 is, and then add.
300.
Yeah.
You're the engineer.
So
Yeah.
5 times 3, 15 times 20 at 300. So about 300 units, which, just so that you know, some of them are built as 2 bedrooms and produce cramming 4 people into them. So
Some of them are built as a studio, but they're taking 2 to 3 people in.
yes. And so we're talking about potentially in a building like that one, housing in 300 units, anywhere between 450, but closer to 900, 1,000 people.
So this is an odd question. I'm thinking if that's a Hope Purdue facility, maybe not, we don't get compensated for a run of it.
So that's where he's headed here with the master lease part of it. With the master lease part of it, it essentially kind of screws us out of the tax money for it. So because they're doing business with Purdue, that makes them not have to pay those property taxes.
And so they don't pay for property taxes and
We
are,
bill for a run.
so they don't pay for property. It gets complicated, okay?
But we're
So
still on the hook for the run, not Purdue.
we're still
Wow.
for the run up for it. And this isn't, and just as a very clear comment here, this isn't about Purdue Fire Department or Purdue Police Department, which is showing. This is, we're the ones that are going to have to respond to those because Purdue's fire department is all the way out there, right?
Yeah.
And they're on campus. But since Purdue's housing crisis is affecting the rest of our community, we're absorbing this, and so it's a little more complicated, right? You have we're a levy-driven state, so like just population growth alone doesn't inherently lead to more dollars. But it does mean that as we're talking about a bump up in how much we're having to ride out and how much we're needing to respond to these areas, we're going to have to do the jump quicker. And that jump is going to have to be funded by the taxpayers in the housing that already exists because places that have master leases don't contribute to the tax base. So essentially, our taxpayers are subsidizing the Purdue's master lease program. And like it's complex, but what are we supposed to do? So we have to have those conversations and we will, but in the meantime, we have to respond to it. We can't just go like, Purdue's problem, we're not gonna respond.
Since Wabash Lofts isn't opened, we've responded over there 10 times so far for faulty fire alarm issues. The problem is when those go off, we have to respond as if it's a fire. So we're dumping everything we have for a fire alarm call because we don't know if it's a faulty smoke detector or if the building's on fire. That's not just us that responds to that, that's also West Lafayette Fire Department that responds to that, right? Because of our auto aid. So that's pulling resources from us and the city of West Lafayette.
And
our
so
volunteers, you name it.
with the benefit of our board meetings being sparsely attended, then I'm able to talk a little bit more frankly about it. I know that the city is also, concerned about these pieces, and so we're having conversations, and we're across our community. There's a lot of agencies that are struggling, and our municipalities are being affected by Purdue's decision making, right? And so we have the blessing and the curse of Purdue, right? So we live with it and we go through it, but we're cognizant of the impact on the taxpayer and for anybody that in the future listens to this, we're cognizant about it, right? Like we understand what it means, but we have to be able to carry out the responsibilities, right? And so as we're making these decisions, those are pieces that are affecting it. I can tell you that before that master lease, I probably would not have considered in the initial draft conversations that we had, I wouldn't have considered adding staff next year. And now I'm considering it because I'm seeing what's going to be a significant increase, right? And you're seeing a trend, and that's barely a weekend to Wabash lofts being, housed or full of students.
The other part of the problem with it is that when he says this is an issue with Purdue Fire Department, because of their growth at Purdue Fire Department is stretched as well, even on campus. West Lafayette Fire Department's taking more calls on campus to help cover, so they auto aid with Purdue, but also while Purdue's out, West Side's taking calls on campus. Conversely, off of campus, West Side, Purdue is still master leasing a lot of stuff in the city of West Lafayette. So we're all kind of hit by it, and truthfully, the hard part is making some change, right? Overall, let's say we said, hey, if you're master leasing this, I want your fire trucks and your ambulances rolled out here to take care of the students. The problem is that's hit and miss. Willowbrook, what's it called now? The apartments on Lindbergh Road, Willowbrook, it used to be Willowbrook.
I know what you're talking about.
Anyway, that apartment complex, Purdue leases 2 of those buildings of like 8 buildings in there. So just take 2 of the buildings. So how do you differentiate that, right? The other hard part of that is Purdue students, if you live on campus, you get free ambulance transport. You don't get billed for your ambulance ride. The problem is with them being out here, they're going to get billed for that ride because Tees is going to come pick them up and transport them because they're so far off campus. So it creates a lot of, even on the fire department side, a lot of logistical trying to sort through stuff. I mean, because ideally, if the students should be afforded a free ambulance, they should get a free ambulance. If they live on campus, it's not their fault they got kicked out there. But how do you do that?
Yeah.
How do you sort that out in apartment complexes that are kind of hit and miss, very sparse on what's Purdue and what's not?
Versus the ones that voluntarily.
That's exactly right. And then from year to year, it even changes. Purdue may take all of Wabash Lofts this year. Next year, they may take 2 buildings and not all of it. Then the year after that, they'll take none. Then the following year, they'll take it all again. It's just
Well, they'll probably take less because a bunch of on-campus housing should come online next year.
Yeah. Should. We've heard that for 3 years. So we'll see. I mean, seriously, we keep hearing, hey, this won't be a problem next year. We were told that they weren't taking any of Willowbrook this year. They shouldn't need to. At the end of last year, we should be fine. We should have all these places open. And now they're taking an entire complex and those buildings. So it's just, I mean, I understand that there's a problem. I understand there's a housing problem. The issue I have with it, they're the only ones with actual land to build stuff. So build on campus and around it. But it's a much bigger issue, I know.
But just again, for the part as it concerns budget, based on the question that David had, we're planning for it and we're looking at it very, very closely because we're seeing costs. We have recurring costs. We're dealing with our equipment's getting used up more. We're getting bigger bills for repairs as we run our apparatus more. And as I think that we've mentioned, and I don't know how, but we've been talking about the potential, and I know that we discussed it, about the potential of either building a new station, and we've been having conversations, and we're that second part that we're still not, nowhere near being able to give you an actual game plan, but it's in discussions, right? But we know that we have to plan to get more apparatuses as we're getting closer to being able to roll 2 engines out of here, to have 2 stations. And even, in the meantime, if we're having more calls and more simultaneous calls, we need to have more apparatus because our apparatus are going to be in use more. They're going to be down more. We need to be able to be getting ready, and we don't want to beat up this apparatus. And then when we make the move, we beat that one up exclusively, and so we now need to buy 2 apparatuses instead of 1.
To the staff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we're trying to figure out all of that. And so
it makes sense to, well, I know we talked about this before. Wouldn't it make sense to anticipate something, buy some land now?
That's the plan. Yeah.
We're waiting for a feasibility study to be finished up. The IFF, I'm still waiting for some data to get to them for them to build that. That'll be helpful for us.
So that's definitely in the list of priorities, the buying of land, even if we're not building right now.
Get the land now.
Yeah.
I will tell you that from when we moved here, West Lafayette stopped at 52, and now they took in Caliber. And if you go out now, it's a quarter mile past Caliber, and that they're going to take that. But before the end of the decade, that'll be West Lafayette. I'll guarantee it. Flat out.
There's a lot of growth.
I'm confident that it will, but while they're taking that, it's still
It's
growing
this
that
way.
way that they're not touching.
Yeah.
So
It's
it's
this
just a
way.
trade-off constantly.
And down this corridor here.
Well, I mean, talking about that growth and expansion, the city of West Lafayette annexing or Purdue having that area, talking about the 3 calls we got hit for today, right? If those calls are in places that are leased from Purdue, or master leased from Purdue, that's really hard for me to justify when Frank has a medical problem in Huntington Farms and I can't get somebody to him because they're in a place that's master lease that's not funding our project or our organization. And that's very hard for me to justify that, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, it took us 30 extra minutes to get somebody to you because
Yeah.
of that. And that's something that we will run up against at some point.
That's why we're trying to get ahead of it, so that we aren't caught flat-footed when
So-
it does happen.
So just I know at the beginning of a meeting I mentioned if we could add to the
Right.
agenda.
This motion at the end, yes.
Yes. So
So how do we want to word that?
so
Motion to,
to authorize the trustee to create a home ruled fund for no more than $25,000 to be used as a pass-through. And I can write it up in a nicer,
said.
cleaner way.
uh,
Is that okay?
yeah, motion to allow the trustee to use a pass-through fund for an amount that not to exceed $25,000.
Yeah, and I'll call it escrow 606 fund, just
Okay.
so that it's easier to understand and digest. So.
Do I have a second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, there you go. Okay, next meeting will be September 17th. Knock on all the wood, we will have what we need to actually make the budget and not have to scramble at the end of the year. And we will do a hearing for the proposed budget. And then a month afterwards, in October, we will have our regular meeting and vote on said budget. All right, I move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Do you want us to sign those resolutions electronically as we have them?
Yeah. I'll go ahead and send those out, and I'll also take the 2 agendas that you have written, the 2 meeting minutes that you've written, and I will submit. I'll put those in for signature as well from the president and the secretary.
Oh, you already have it.
Good question.
Sorry.
You already have the minutes.
Good
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
There's